All right, good morning. Tuesday, June 3rd, 9 a.m., Public Services and Facilities Committee meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Citizens' comments? I believe we have none. Approval of the previous meeting's minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Marina tenants comments, I do not see. Ooh, that's intense. I don't see any marina tenants here, so assuming that means we have none. Old business update on the Waterway Boulevard project. Saw some somewhat encouraging email yesterday. We're down to 2.
We're down to 2, yep. We have, and I would say those 2 seem relatively, well, first of all, those 2 are in one of the kind of what I call the pockets. You have 3
Sorry, and
different
this is
segments.
2 residents.
Two residents.
The 21 that were, was it still 21?
I think it's 21,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've got 19.
We have 19 in our possession. We have 2. One we're meeting on site with tomorrow. The other one seems, he's kind of new to the area, seems positive about it, but hasn't actually given us back the executed agreement yet. So we're hopeful on both of those. Just don't have all of them in hand yet.
Is there anything for the one that you're meeting with tomorrow? Is there anything that we can do or anybody? I mean,
I don't think so. Actually has pretty good questions about, and they just happen to have a tight constraint with a tree, a fence, and then a very short distance between the fence and the berm kind of barrier. So kind of questions about, well, what if something gets stuck in this area? You know, who's going to clean that little strip? So very kind of, kind of granular. Yeah, very
Situation-specific.
situation
Okay.
specific. So we're hopeful that we can, figure that out and kind of come to grips. It was the owner that it took us. We have not been able to contact that owner until, I think it was last week. So this is all brand-new information to him, where, the rest have been kind of learning about it along the way and kind of hearing about it for months now. This person just became aware of it last week, and it's all brand new to him. So a little bit of it's just getting up to speed on the project. So we are hopeful that we will have all of those agreements in hand here soon. We are hearing that the contractor that we had authorized to proceed with, that's the contractor for the project with Wild Dunes, they may be having scheduling challenges with their existing work. And it might be that they don't have the kind of manpower bandwidth to take this additional project on now. So those are kind of, we do have, some additional hurdles obviously to get over with Wild Dunes, vetting all of the agreements, getting those recorded, and then coming to terms with a contractor. Our initial objective is to get it with the contractor that's on site now, Heritage. If we figure out either that they can't do it or that Wild Dunes doesn't want us kind of intermingling with their project because they're having their own struggles, that'll lead us to trying to go to a new contractor. So still, a lot of moving parts to get organized and get underway, but
And we'll do that with Thomas and Hutton, or
do
to
the
get
pricing.
the subcontracting, and will it be our subcontractor or their
Yes,
subcontractor?
it will be our subcontractor. Thomas and Hutton will
They'll manage.
they'll oversee the construction administration, but actually getting somebody engaged will be pretty much on us.
Do we have anyone in mind?
We do, yeah, we kind of have our, our kind of go-to contractors that have done projects for us here in the last year or so. It's a little bit of it's a smallish project, but kind of too big for like a landscape
Yeah.
company, but, too small for kind of a big big operation. So it'll be that kind of middle-sized company, but we have a handful of options to get. The other part of it is we will need them to go to work like immediately.
Yeah, and this
So-
is the full $2.6 million project end to end for the,
Well, this is kind of the first chunk of that, which council authorized, I think it was about $700,000 of the work. So this is really just that portion that's on the golf course. So this project, a large part of it's on the golf course. There's another kind of part that has the major drainage, new drainage outfalls, and then there's a section on the multi-use path in the DOT right-of-way. So this is really only the part that is out on the golf course. So
That's
it's,
where the
Yeah.
time constraint.
that's the
comes
time
in.
constraint. The
when will you
next,
know? Do you have an idea when you might get a determination on whether they're going to do it or not, Heritage?
needs to be this week. I mean, we're down to.
And if
down
for
to
some
kind of-
reason they can't with that, do you know how long that might push the time?
I think it'll at least be 3 weeks. If Heritage can't, then I think, kind of coming to terms with another contractor is going to take at least a few weeks. So we're balancing that, all with the closing kind of window of opportunity to work on the golf course.
Yep.
So it's tight, but we're trying to squeeze it in. It's kind of like the elevator door is closing on us. We're trying to get in before it shuts. So
Okay.
we're going as quickly as we can on that.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed.
Fingers and toes. All right, update on beach projects.
So both of the city's projects. So you have the shoal management project up on the Wild Dunes end of the island. That job wrapped up just on the Thursday before Memorial Day weekend. CSE has been doing the post-project monitoring last week, and I think they're out here yesterday. So they're surveying all the work that's done. They're surveying the shoal that's now remaining, and they're measuring the movement of that shoal onto shore, trying to ensure that things are kind of moving as we had expected they would.
Any preliminary indication on how things held, like during the king tides and
They
all
they
this
did
other-
very well in the king tides. I mean, I think we were pleasantly surprised with the Beechwood East end of the project. I do think and you'll recall that
Yeah.
that project was kind of split between two different areas: the Beechwood East area, and then the Ocean Club area. I think we were pleasantly surprised with the Beechwood East area. They went from having water up under their slabs, a mountain of sandbags, to after the king tide, they still had probably 50 feet of dry sand beach during those tides. Got into it. I mean, it definitely took a toll during those tides, but it seemed to kind of maintain itself through those tides. So that was good.
Yeah, I had one resident ask, I guess there were some dunes built up, but then they kind of got flattened out. Is there a reason that happened, or what that?
That
is
they
the-
compacted them
Yeah.
down. That is just part of.
Pretty normal?
Yeah, that's part of that equipment. I mean, we actually wanted them compacted to keep that sand in place. So they kind of do a process of placing the sand loosely, and then they kind of, they don't take a roller out there, but they intentionally take the equipment
Pack it down.
and pack it down to make it.
To make it denser.
Yeah, make it more denser. So the other part of that project on the north end is dealing with how quickly that shoal is coming on shore, according to the preliminary. And we're trying to obviously balance giving enough protection to buy enough time for the shoal to naturally move onto shore, and that has a lot of sand in that shoal. So once that shoal naturally attaches, we're in a good state of affairs. But it's still about 300 feet off of the shoreline. It did move about 150 feet, so it was kind of 450. It moved 150 in about 6 weeks. Stephen estimates it's probably still, though, close to 6 months away from being fully attached. So again, kind of keeping fingers crossed that that shoal will just continue to naturally come on shore and provide natural protection. We talked a little bit about the Beechwood East end of that project faring well. I would say that the Ocean Club end didn't have the benefit of the shielding of the shoal, so it did not fare as well. So we're a little bit, we're just watching that area closely. It just doesn't have quite the protection right now that the rest of that island has, that end has. But Stephen is hopeful that when the shoal attaches, that the sand will migrate to the north and south, and some of it will benefit that area. So,
But that'd be
again,
sometime next year, it sounds like.
yeah, I think kind of 6 months to
it.
attach, and then several months to kind of migrate up there and
So what
provides.
what would we do in the meantime?
So we have sandbags there now. We didn't remove those. You'll also recall that part of the agreement with the sandbags at Beechwood East is that we would leave those in place for 6 months. In the event that that project, the shoal moves ashore, those bags are no longer necessary there, we would have the ability to move those bags to Ocean Club.
So it's kind of
And
wait
then-
and see and then work out the
wait.
logistics, yeah.
Yeah, and then we also, the shoal management project allowed for 2 full-scale projects. So, we would just have to wait to see kind of how things move. But those would be the kind of contingency plans would be to bolster the area with bags if necessary. We could do kind of, we could do an additional shoal project after the summer if that was necessary. All of this to try to kind of buy time to get the shoal naturally on shore. And then eventually, we are going to get to needing to do a major renourishment project. So we're just monitoring it and seeing how it progresses down there.
In the south end?
So the south end, that project, so you'll recall, you have 2 projects that were going. You have the Army Corps of Engineers project. That's progressing, still very slow, kind of as it's always been. We have really been trying to push on them. They have been set up in the kind of 2nd and 3rd Avenue area for months. Really, that's the only area they've been. We really would like them to be discharging up kind of 6th, 7th, 8th to get the benefit of that sand running along that entire shoreline instead of just building up at 2nd, going into the inlet. They have contractual, their contract ties the sand that's going onto the beach to parts of the Barrow area, and they just say that they don't have the flexibility to just kind of move it up north. So we're a little
Can you
bit,
say that again? I'm not following.
so we would like them to move the pipe up.
They don't have, why?
But-
Because it would take more pipe to go up
No,
farther north?
they
or-
claim that they can't, that parts of the Barrow site are tied to placement areas on our beach. So they have to get, according to their contract, this 8th, and I'm just kind of
So they're
giving it
matching a grid with a
with a placement
with a
area.
reach.
Can
Yeah.
we
That's
move it?
correct.
Because we were moving it just up to the dune. Can we move it up the beach?
We probably could.
mean-
We
But they'll get
have-
there. It sounds like they got to work through their grid, they got to work through their grid to get to the next grid to be able to move the pipe.
That's
what I'm
that's
hearing.
correct. They will eventually move up, but we would like them to do it now. And they,
Should we look
Or-
into if we could move some of that sand up?
But then what will we do if when they get to the next, it sounds to me like they've got a grid, they've got their 500,000 cubic yards already gridded out. So this grid's going to go to 2nd, this grid's going to go to
That's
3rd,
correct.
this grid's going to go to 4th. So if we move the 2nd grid up to 6th, when the 6th grid comes, what are we going to do? Just are we going to pile more sand on, or does it go to?
Yeah, because it keeps moving down south.
yeah, I think
I mean,
that is what we would like
I
to
mean,
do.
this is more of
but-
a question, I think, for Stephen or
Yeah.
whoever, but if if that's kind of if Mother Nature is moving it south or whatever direction that is, not exactly south, but toward Breachin,
Yeah,
then maybe if the Corps is not able to move their pipe, maybe we can move some of the sand, because it is, it's gonna just flow down,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, we have we have an additional permit to do the work that we just did with I don't know that there's anything in that permit that would I think that we're potentially permitted to do what you're saying. It would,
Here
it
it
would
is.
be a,
So do we,
June, moving a bunch
Yeah.
of sand up
Yeah.
the beach is probably
Yeah, that
not the
probably
easiest
would
thing in
be
the
the-
world, but
so if they're they're basically through two grids, I don't know, do we know are they 100,000 through their 500,000, or are they 200,000 through their 500? Is that can we just maybe get an answer
Yeah.
to that, and then find out, also, what's the timeline? If they're now 2 months in, or 3 months, 4 months in, it sounds like it's gonna go through the summer. I think the last, estimate from Steve was a 6-month, which would have put us in the fall, almost to
Yeah.
the end of the year. Are we kind of now going into 26? Wait a minute, wait.
have not heard that yet.
I'm
But-
just wondering,
yeah.
I think for the homeowners and for the people who
Yeah.
have rental properties and things of that nature, it might be good for them to know what what the duration of the project is. And, maybe if there's even a possibility, Steve can give us sort of a report of, hey, how many yards have they done, and how long do we think, just 2 metrics or something occasionally.
Yeah.
Every month, then we kind of know how far along, are they on track, or are they going to keep rolling?
Yeah, and they do, we actually had a meeting with them scheduled for yesterday that the Army Corps had to cancel, but they do give us those metrics
Yeah.
of how many are moved so far. And I think we've talked about this, that they started this project at about 500,000. We got, I think, a collective additional
That's 50.
100,000
Okay.
from between the remaining portion of the Sullivan Sand and the additional out of the Intracoastal. And then they have also indicated that after this project is done, they have a need to go back and complete the additional sand at the
Sullivan.
Intercoastal Waterway. So I think that we are kind of estimating that this is going to ultimately yield a little bit over 700,000. And they've also indicated a willingness to potentially do the work of moving the shoal from the Intercoastal on a much more frequent cadence.
So is there a dredging project scheduled for Breach or anything, or is that what you're
Yes.
talking about? Yeah.
Yes,
And when is that going to happen?
as soon as they wrap up what they're doing now.
Okay, so,
So they're just going to kind of live
Next
on the
year.
beach.
yeah.
But yeah, probably next, I think early next calendar year.
But there's
So do you all
progress.
think there's I guess I would assume that but I could certainly ask Stephen if our permits would allow us to mechanically move.
If that's something that he thinks is possible and from a
Advisable, yeah.
and advisable, and from a logistics standpoint, we could do it, I would say, let's see if we can do it. I don't know. Obviously, it's gonna cost money, so we have to figure out.
Yeah.
It'd have to come to council, but
Okay.
I feel like if that's something that needs to happen, then let's see if we can,
Yeah,
if we need to do it.
okay. I'll
how's
ask that question.
how's the second opinion coming from Foth and Olson?
We exchange, I know they're working on it. I mean, they're steadily asking questions. I don't have a date, as to when they'll be.
Is it going to be a similar kind of report that we got from the residents, you think, or?
I think so. The
Structure firm,
residents' report was very focused on one area. I think it's going to be similar but
Broader.
broader in its scope. But yeah, I would envision something
That was a good
very
report,
similar.
yeah.
Yep.
And just this is just a request, and, Steve sent some notes back about the cost and everything, and, I know I've been kind of harping on the estimates, and even in his response back, we've got $15.34 per cubic yard budgeted at $27 million. And, even his response, I think he was talking about these 2022 projects, which were not in the sample I had. But he's at 1725 and 1847, and those were from projects 4 years ago. Smaller volumes for sure, so it might pump up the cost per cubic yard, but, maybe we could spend some time with him just to And I think you had mentioned getting with either Marinex and Great Lakes. You know, that Myrtle Beach one that came in at 36 is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it would be a good idea, you know, just to, for planning purposes, because if we're going to be working with Wild Dunes on cost sharing, if we can kind of keep these estimates a little
Yep.
more current, and it seems to me like we're, you know, I hope I'm wrong, but at 1534, I think we're pretty light, but that's just me.
Yeah. I will say that we're also having the second opinion, you know, and it's already proving to be useful. I mean, to be able to kind of bounce off of them this type of information, you know, to have them being familiar with our coast, our project, I think will be a benefit. And I've asked him to just look at, you know, the cost estimate we have, whether he thinks it's a good number, low, kind of given what we've seen around the coast.
Did your counterpart, I think Hilton Head came in at 2159, did your counterpart tell you what the variable, the expense?
He didn't tell me the part of the project. It's some kind of, there is some component of the project that was unusual, that did drive the cost up. I don't know the details on what that component is. But he was gonna look and, you know, in his work and just kind of give us a head nod, not a detailed estimate or anything, but kind of a head nod on whether he thought we were in line with what he would expect or if we were low. I think he did say generally their, you know, kind of spitball number on a basic project is around $18 for budgeting. You know, they kind of hope that it comes in less and they're pleasantly surprised. But he was gonna look at it a little more in depth and give us some feedback on that.
With all these moving parts, I don't know how you feel, Katie, should we just maybe table any more and kind of should we have Steve maybe come to the workshop to give us all an update on what's going on? I mean, would that be something he might?
I will
be
say,
willing to do?
I had a great call with Stephen yesterday, and he had, you know, and I kind of geek out on that type of stuff, but he had great aerial images of the work that was done, of what the shoal has done, you know, here since they started. So
There's a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be good to
Like it's
get
been a
council
while.
an update, yeah. If he can.
I do know that workshop is, you know, it's, I guess like everything, it's getting so crammed up with stuff. But maybe we could just have him do a quick few minutes.
That'd be helpful, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. So is that everything on the beach for now?
Yep, that's enough.
It is. So we have a request from Dominion Energy to consider charging stations.
Yeah, and I was expecting Westmoreland with Dominion to be here. And I would say that we just, unless you will, I think he needs to be here to have this conversation. We must have gotten our times crossed on this meeting.
It's okay to push this?
So, yeah, if you all are agreeable, we'll put it on
Okay.
Yeah,
July's agenda. But, you know, the
I got
information's
nothing
in
to
the.
offer.
You got what?
I mean, I don't know anything.
I was
really.
waiting to hear.
Yeah.
Keith
Yeah,
about it,
yeah, it's a
I feel
good
like he's-
presentation.
yeah.
It's, you know, they're very interested in kind of helping build out the grid for these electric vehicles. And so it's an interesting talk, and I think it'll be good, but we'll push it till July.
Sounds good. All right, the policy to allow civic organizations to have signs on the island. So this was, this was something that we voted down in this committee. It went to council. Kind of felt like it was voted down in council. And now we're back to look at it again. I just think I just don't think it's all that much of a win for the city, and it's gonna be a burden for staff, and I just, when I look at the pros and cons, I just don't see enough pros for this. But I guess if we need to come up with some matrix to help, you know, to decide when and where to do this,
Yeah, and I think it's a colossally bad idea. I don't know how else to put it. And
Yeah.
I think it has nothing to do with the organizations. I kind of echo with Katie. I think it's work. There's issues of preference. There's issue of location. There's issues of vetting. Do we really need more signage on the island? I mean, I think I understand the desire, but, I think it gives the perception that the city might be endorsing organizations. Are they based on the island here? We can certainly go through the framework and everything, but the whole fairness and objective, who gets to put one up, who doesn't, who gets the primo space, who doesn't? Do we really want to be in the organizational signage business? Again, nothing against the organizations, but I don't know where it starts and then where it stops. Or where we put the signage. I mean, do we really want to put more distractions at our entrances that are getting more and more and more traffic all the time? I don't see the need for it. I think we had one organization that was requesting it, good organization. But to manage this and spend the time and putting an ordinance together and put signs up, I'll stop there.
So I guess from my perspective, the difference from, and I think I would agree that there was not support of the original request. I think that the idea got interjected about doing it at an alternate location. There seemed to be, obviously there wasn't a vote, but there seemed to be at least more support for that idea.
Like a front beach entrance?
Yeah, I mean, that was, and I guess I heard the idea of putting the signs on the bathroom, and I kind of immediately, raised my eyebrows and felt like that might not be something the organization would
I had the same
would
reaction.
even want. So I guess I could see the issues with that, but I did think that there appeared to be more support for shifting the location of the signs away from the kind of key intersections and entrance on the island. I don't know if that would change this subcommittee's kind of opinion about, and I don't know, kind of going back to the likelihood of the current request, putting a sign at a place like the public restrooms or any other folks. I just don't know if there would be a clamoring desire to do that.
Well, do we?
I mean, I guess I'm just wondering how we move forward on this, or if we just, I don't know, I mean, I guess the first thing we would have, if this was something that we were going to do, we have to find a location for it. And I mean, I know Front Beach has already got quite a bit of, there's stuff on turtles down there, there's stuff on litter and trash. I mean, so
Okay.
now it's just another thing that people are gonna,
Could we do
and
this?
I mean, it's just, it seems like a lot of work for staff to have to vet this. And I really do think that it really and truly does need to be like fully vetted. I mean, and I spent over an hour the other day just trying to find out basic information about Lens because I wanted to know if this was an organization that, that the city wants to endorse. I mean, they do great things, but there are a lot of charities out there that, I know charities, the larger ones, are rated for how much money they bring in and where it actually goes, and if it's going to the actual needed cause or if it's going to somewhere else. And I couldn't find that information, and so, the information's got to be out there somewhere. And so how much time are we going to ask our staff to put into vetting an organization, which I think is an absolute must if we're going to do this, because the last thing we want is to endorse an organization that doesn't, that has something in there that we don't want to endorse. And then, so how much time are we going to put into that so that we can have another sign that's just not going to be, what is the point? I mean, every time I keep going back to like, why are we doing this? I mean,
I've heard colossally bad idea. I've heard,
I probably could have chosen a different word.
but, I mean, I would, from, again, I guess from my perspective, there was kind of this softening on support, or I guess firming up actually support if it got moved. I think that I think that is kind of what led it to coming back to this committee.
Can I ask one, maybe to kind of, maybe one thing we could do is ask you to let's just take one cycle here. I don't think there's an urgency to get the signs
Yeah.
up. Can you come back to us next month with, hey, if we're not going to do, I think we're all kind of in agreement that we don't want it at these entrances, what other alternative sites would even be considered?
And I don't think there's, so I've been, I mean, to
Oh,
me.
you already thought about this, okay.
The restroom, when you look at what the city actually owns, that's in a visible area, you kind of have the restroom and you have City Hall. I mean, those are, if you start to, we have a little pocket here and there of right-of-way, which I think would be kind of bizarre by the,
And there's the native plant garden area.
well, that's not ours, though.
Oh, that's right.
That's the Water and
That's
Sewer
the Water
Commission.
and
We,
Sewer.
we do have the triangle right next to the post office that people are parking in. You have little strips of city right-of-way, not DOT right-of-way, down at the front beach.
Anything
I mean,
by the Wild Dunes entrance, or? Oh, the curve? Yeah.
21st curve,
That's not city, though.
that would be DOT's.
Yeah, it's not city. When you look at city properties,
Carmen Bunch Park.
yeah, Carmen Bar, yeah.
Again, I just don't, I don't see the advantage to the city. I don't see the advantage to the organization for the burden on the city to do this. It just, I don't get it.
I think I'm hearing a recommendation of just don't do it.
That would be where I'd start.
And, I think, again, the request was kind of think about spaces other than the entrance. I think, sounds like you will have thought about it considerably, and that
You
I
know,
think the recommendation is that you still don't think that it should be allowable.
On here, these are some of the things that came up: perception of city endorsement, fairness and precedent, organizational transparency, visual clutter, and public space management, and policy gaps. These are the kinds of things that I think, do we really want to get into a determination of who's putting signs up for how long and where and all that? I think you, Douglas, and hopefully the staff have a lot better things to worry about right now. And I think that, the presentation was that this is a common thing that happens maybe in large cities. I would say it's more of a, it happens occasionally in municipalities. I don't know that, Sullivan's Island have those, or Mount Pleasant, or even Charleston or something. I don't know that it's as common as it's occasional. And, I just don't know that we really want to, do we really want to spend our time on this and then have to fight out, well, you got your sign up, I want my sign up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to have an objection no matter whose sign goes up.
All right, I think you'll,
Recommendation would be let's take a
Just
pass,
to Not, yeah,
if we can do that.
yeah.
recommendation is to not allow,
Let's
Yeah.
not go down this path.
let's
Yeah.
not.
And again, nothing against the organization. I was a founding member, but I think this is a good idea in my opinion.
Is that a second and a unanimous vote?
Yes.
Of the two.
Yes.
All in
All in favor?
of.
Aye.
Aye, although I guess you're not, are we not? I thought we
Said
weren't
discuss,
supposed,
but
we're not
we'll-
supposed to
we'll
vote on
vote.
things.
We
that
can-
Oh,
are
yeah,
neg-
okay.
You're not supposed to vote in the
though. Yeah,
negative or
that's-
something like that.
It's been clear.
Okay.
Okay, discussion of the city's IT arrangements. And that is coming off, or I guess was prompted by this changeover that we're doing
Yeah, and maybe,
to, what's the name of the company we're going with?
Uh,
I'm drawing a blank.
VC3.
Thank you, VC3.
Migration over to,
And maybe between now and the next meeting, I think I brought this up and asked it to be put on the agenda. Our costs for IT services are like anything, IT and telecom, they've been going up. I think maybe it was in accounting, but we really didn't have any IT services in the IT accounts back in 21 or 22. And now they've gone from a few $100,000 up to $600,000. And I know we've gotten a lot more services. But I think what we discovered when we went through kind of this small exercise, that maybe if we put some eyes on it or a little bit more scrutiny, we might be able to do some optimization. This isn't don't do this or do that. And maybe it's, I'm happy to work with you or Deborah or whoever and maybe get it in a little bit more organized fashion. And then, I think VC, is it VC3 or, yeah, VC3 seems like a pretty competent group, and I think they're doing work for MASC and others. Might be worthwhile because it looks like they've got the lion's share of this, maybe get a rep and, maybe do a little work with them and have them take a look at our whole portfolio to see if, can some of these contracts be refreshed? Can they be renegotiated? Can we look at the user pools to either reduce, we might have users that have been put on that have never come off. But my guess is we can, if it's like any other exercise like this, we probably could find some money here and, we can put it somewhere. We can put that money, it's not an employee thing or whatever, we can just maybe redeploy it someplace else. So rather than spend a lot of time on it right now, maybe we can get together.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sounding like it would be helpful to just have a list of our kind of 5 to 10 biggest IT expenses. Here's what they are, have,
Yeah, kind of see the trends and the users and all that. And
Yeah.
I can help maybe put that together.
and then have a VC3. You want to try to have a representative at your next public facilities meeting, or what?
Why don't we talk between now and then? We got a month, see where we
Okay.
can get. And
Okay.
I think that would be a great idea, though. I think they can probably, my guess is they're going to be the best organization that might be able to help us out with this.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can certainly kind of run that report. You and I sit down, talk about it,
Okay.
get VC3 involved, and go from there.
All right.
All right, so now we are going to start looking over the enrichment program, or the community enrichment and matrix, and kind of see where to start, where to go, what needs to be done, what we can do, what we can't do. So I guess we just start going through the recommendations. I would say today we just kind of run through them and pick out maybe the things that we think we can actually make some progress on. What's maybe 2 or 3 things that we could put on the agenda for next meeting and really start to discuss. And then, just from glancing at this, there's quite a few.
Yeah,
At least the first 2 in particular the paving, and these are questions I have. The Palm Boulevard stuff, that's the DOT's road, so, what can we do? And, I know the second one in particular is something that we've been discussing with the DOT for 100 years. So,
Yeah, how do we kind of want to go about this? There's some really good suggestions and ideas. When I look at, exploratory, and then the dollar signs are kind of like a Yelp page where you got, it's cheap.
Yeah.
And it's a really expensive restaurant. And the ones that are kind of tied to other plans, I think might be prioritized. It's there, and I looked at some of these and I wonder if we can consolidate,
Yeah.
like the ones that are dependencies or DOT. Like the thing about, we've got as big a thing on here as get the roads back from DOT, which I think is a commendable goal and objective. To, let's put some couch and new furniture in the rec center. So it's kind of all over the map. I'm just trying to figure out how do we,
maybe we just go
focus
through
on 2 or 3?
and
Okay.
kind of put a label by it.
Okay.
And then, does that make sense?
Yeah.
The first one, just to get us started, in pavement, in pavement lighting and existing crosswalks of Palm Boulevard. Is that something that we can do, or is that something that the Department of Transportation has to do?
I think we could do that if, you know, their stance is if it meets their road code standards, which I'm not positive this does. I don't know that I've ever seen it, but I'm guessing somebody did see it for it to make it on the list. That I think is a dialogue with the DOT. You know, so that's something that I think
So, yeah, so let's
We could-
flag that with
DOT
let's talk
question,
to
send
the
that to
DOT
DOT.
and find out if that's something we can do.
Yep.
And I would also like to note a little caveat there from the Environmental Committee is that they are currently discussing lighting and decreasing lighting
Yep.
because of turtles and other wildlife. So, and you know, there's a very large cost related to changing the
changing the
street
lights.
lights, which, so those are, you know, everything has its unintended consequences. So, you know, we start talking about adding lighting to Palm Boulevard, and now we're going to have to be thinking about how that affects the turtles primarily, because Palm is visible.
Either of you in all your travels seen in pavement lighting?
Trying to imagine what that would be. I
You are much
Not-
more worldly than I am. I've never seen it, so
feel like
when
it might
I
be
read
one of
it.
those
I've
things
s-
that's there, but you don't notice it, maybe?
I've seen it, it's more of a, at a crosswalk, but geez, maybe even in a foreign country or some.
I mean, I think it
other
is
municipality.
at a crosswalk.
Yeah,
Is it
right.
like
No, yeah.
is it so this isn't just like reflectors, this
But
is
no,
actual light.
You'd have what would happen is you press the button for a crosswalk, and once the thing hits, geez, I think we've got one actually like in Park City. There's a in front of one of the grocery stores. It's a bus stop. It's an extremely busy traffic. It's not even on an intersection there, and it's they've got a crosswalk, and the lights aren't in pavement. The lights are flashing on the
This is at an actual crosswalk where you
It's
have
at a crosswalk.
where you push a button,
Yeah, yeah.
though,
And
not
I don't
like
know how
ours.
else, otherwise you're gonna have these things that flashing all the time, I think, or the motion, and if they're motion detected, then every time a car goes over there, you know what I mean? So I think this is one where the logistics, mechanics, engineering, you know, are you trying to have the lights flash when somebody's crossing? Is if that's the objective, then that's usually with a.
A button, yeah, you gotta have a
You'd hit the
button.
button. And then what would happen is the lights would go on, the traffic would stop, and then the people would go. You know, then you'd have your countdown 20 seconds or whatever. Once that's done, the lights stop flashing, it goes, yeah.
So maybe on that one, we get an example of what it looks like, what it is, because I don't
Yeah,
even know what
I
that
feel like
is.
we need a
And-
lot more information on that.
And then we'll have a DOT, once we know kind of what it looks like, we'll just have a preliminary discussion with DOT. Is it,
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever seen in pavement lighting.
And
Now that I
Okay.
think about it, yeah.
So the next
Sure
one,
exists.
I mean, that is an ongoing conversation with the Department of Transportation to fix Palm Boulevard between 21st and 40th, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's
Is that the
something-
grand plan?
Yeah. I mean, that's something I think that, I think
Yeah,
that
that's
everybody
the-
that lives out here would love to see that happen. Unfortunately,
Is
I
the
don't-
Public Safety Committee working on that one?
is that, I
no.
think,
no, I mean, that was part of this, is that, you know, a lot of these initiatives had a lot of kind of, could go
Crossover,
to
yeah.
either committee. This was chosen to be the kind of infrastructure
but
committee.
where are, I mean, I don't even know. I feel like we were supposed to have some report from DOT.
Months and
Like
months,
a
a
long
year
time
ago,
ago.
yeah.
Because, I mean, I saw pictures of like a beautification of Palm Boulevard and, you know, options for bike lanes. I mean, I definitely,
Yep.
unless I
think
just
there was-
dreamed it. I
no.
feel like I really did see some nice looking, you know,
There were some visuals.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there were alternative pavement sections kind of presented, and I think the city said, we like this one. And I think that there was kind of the question of, okay, that's a $30 million option, and we're both just kind of sitting on that as a long-term goal or, but I don't, I am
Is
unaware
there-
of any,
Is there anything we can do as a committee or as a city to restart that conversation with DOT and really find out, like,
Well, and one of
I
the,
mean,
mo-
if that's
Yeah,
$30
that-
million, then obviously, at least not, maybe not obviously, but I feel like that's not really in the cards right now. But is there something else we can do that,
well, one of the triage for these things might be, I mean, we wouldn't, I don't think we'd spend money on widening the sidewalk if DOT is going to be doing a massive project there, would we? That would be a.
Well, and
or is
I mean,
it
I
on our
guess-
land and their land?
it's not our
Is it-
sidewalk?
You're right.
to that point, you know, if the DOT,
Oh,
there
look
it
at
is.
that.
If the DOT
Oh, nice.
project is a massive reconfiguration project, maybe just the sidewalk portion of it can be kind of cherry picked out. That obviously wouldn't be a, you know, a $30-40 million project.
And it is covered, those are widened in certain different, I think we talked about, I forget which concept we kind of landed on, but yeah, that's, yeah, look at that left.
Looks beautiful.
It does.
So, let me report back which concept got endorsed.
And if there's pieces of that,
And if there's
or-
the sidewalk portion that could be kind of cherry picked out and focused on,
And
what
if
that would
DOT,
cost,
yeah,
what
and if
that would.
DOT's got maybe a call to their office, say, is this on hold, or is this a pipe dream, or?
I think it's pipe dream.
Okay.
But I
But
can,
if,
we
but
gotta-
if-
if we
but-
know that,
But I
then-
mean, I think one of the biggest complaints that, I mean, obviously, from an aesthetic standpoint, it could obviously, it looks terrible. We could do a lot better. But from a usable standpoint, if we could move the bikes to a bike, like if we could widen that sidewalk and change that to make that a biking, walking.
Multi-use path.
Multi-use path, thank you. That, and get bikes off of the, main thoroughfare, that would be a huge win. I know I get calls all the time from people that are stuck behind bikes and people swerve to get around bikes and almost hit other people, and, I mean, it's, so. Maybe
yeah,
that's,
and I know
maybe
there's,
that's
I know
the-
there's a conundrum about if it's, the bikes can't go, the bikes have to be in the road unless it is a designated kind of
Right,
full.
multi-use,
Multi-use
yeah.
path and what, so I think that answer could come if we know what option we're endorsing and
Yeah,
maybe that's a possibility. If it's wide enough to be a multi-use path, that we could do both.
I mean, like, for instance, Waterway Boulevard, if and when we get this multi-use path on Waterway, will bikes then not be allowed on Waterway?
I think they
or-
will be allowed to do either or. I think they will still be,
Can we strongly encourage, is there a way to, is there anything that?
that's I know this is,
It's a
I
hot
know
button
this is a hot
issue.
button
I
issue,
know.
and those that are kind of serious cyclists, they don't want to be on the multi-use path. They want to be with traffic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can make them, I don't think so. But I could certainly check on that. But I think without it, they cannot be
Right.
on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
So I think-
technically, the sidewalk is supposed to just
So the
be for-
recreational cyclists, which is probably those that, I mean, those guys that are going, I think they're going almost the speed limit. If it's
Yeah.
the kind of racing situation that wants to be in
They're
traffic.
still getting past, and it's still very dangerous, but,
Yeah,
yeah, they ride on rifle range too, which,
How are you on time?
oh.
Yeah, you got a hard
I'm good.
stop.
No, I'm good.
all right.
He took an Uber.
Oh, okay.
He's gone. So yeah, I think those great questions for DOT, and we'll see what they come back
Okay.
with.
Do we want to group these with DOT that
Yeah, you want to skip around to the,
develop the plan for the city to acquire residential roads from the South Carolina
is that the
DOT?
next?
It's
It's kind of halfway
Pipeline,
down, or
Drainage.
maybe 10 from,
Yeah.
5 from the
Yeah.
top. to the bottom.
Develop a plan for the city to require. I mean, I know that's something that's been talked about for a long time. I think is that
I think
with
that's
our
one that,
lobbyists? Is that something that,
well, you know, I think we probably want to have that, do we even want to pursue this without having an approval from council? Because the implications are, we've got about 18 miles of road, I think, outside the gate, if I remember correctly. And there's when we say acquire, I think the model is such that they will transfer roads and give us money for a long-term, I don't know, 20 years of maintenance. You know, if we do that, then we're looking at a whole new model for public works. Roberts and Donnie are really excited about that. But we need to, you know, this is embarking upon, you know, taking it over, which we probably get some better service and more attention because we keep competing with the I-26s of the world for capital. But, and I think Charleston's looking at taking some roads in. They already have. But do we, you know, how much time can we do here at the committee without really assessing what is, if we pursue this, what does it mean? It's a
Yeah.
big,
I
it's a big,
guess I would-
that's the biggest undertaking
Yeah,
on
it's
this.
huge.
Yeah.
I think I would always question what the benefit to the city is to do this. You know, the general kind of repaving in recent years has been happening as a result of the penny sales tax, the county money, not DOT money, but county money. We would get that either way, if it's a DOT road or a city road. But if that were to go away, you know, I think this would put a lot of miles of roadway on a very small, you know, community of residents to pay for that. After this, to me, this kind of dangling a carrot of we'll give you money to maintain it for 20 years, and then you're on your own for the forever. There's not a huge upside to that I can tell. I mean, it's one thing when we want, like at the front beach, we wanted to reconfigure that road. We wanted to do it in a way that was aesthetically better than it was, but it was outside of the DOT standards. So we kind of very selectively took over whatever that is, 3 blocks. But we didn't want to take over any more than we had to, knowing that, you know, we're on the hook for maintenance. And now, as you all know, that section of road is now 20 years old, and we need to start budgeting to replace the asphalt, redo the sidewalks. It's going to be very expensive to redo that, so we're kind of paying the price for taking it over. But that, to me, is an asset to the community that we want to have. We want to control that. But when you get back into, you know, just a residential road in the middle of the island, I don't know what we're getting out of that.
Yeah, and I think most municipalities outside of the state of South Carolina do manage their own roads. And I mean, if you look at even Wild Dunes, I think the quality of the Wild Dunes road structure versus the island right now, there's a noticeable difference. So, you know, it can be done, but it does require, it's a whole new mindset. And I think, you know, South Carolina is one of the only states that has all of the municipal road systems within state domain, which then competes for the capital to maintain them, repave them, do whatever, and we're kind of at the whim of the state when they get around to it. So, you know, I think the discussion originated for a couple different reasons. It was, you know, control of the roads, being able to make it a priority to maintain or upgrade, you know, the maintenance would get immediate attention. But again, I'm kind of with you though too, Douglas. Is it worth embarking upon? It is what it is right now. We're not a big municipality. We've got a lot of other things on our plate. You know, I've not lived in a municipality where the state had the road requirements, and then that gave the municipality the ability to be able to do what they needed to do to their own roads. But
Yeah,
but this is a unique, you
yeah,
know, this is a
we
different.
we get control,
Yeah.
but then it
But
comes
what do
with,
we,
Yeah.
it comes with,
What do we gain?
what
But
are
then
we
also-
wanting to do that we can't do with it
I
being
think
a
it's
DOT road?
it's more the fear that if we allow the state to keep the roads, that you know, they could come in and
Make them public
change
parking.
the way that things are now. I don't want to say the P word, but yeah, I think that's.
Parking was a consideration too.
I mean,
I'm
that's
sure.
what, I mean, that was what started this conversation, I
Yeah.
believe. And if they were ours, then we could say what happens on them and what doesn't.
And I think the state actually had a program. They wanted, they
Oh,
were
they-
looking at trying to
That's-
unload.
Yeah, they
that,
very much would like for us to
because they got
take-
they got
all
their
of
plates
them.
full. Yeah.
Yeah,
But then they would, I think they would give some money for maintenance of them, right?
yeah,
That's
a
what they
little
do.
bit, you know.
But probably not enough to.
There's
fully.
the way the formula works is, you know, if your roads are voted or deemed to be excellent versus good versus fair versus poor, that will give you that determines the amount of money that you're gonna get on the transfer. And it just so happened, I think last year, some of our roads, I don't know what changed, but we got an upgrade.
We're excellent.
Well, no, we're
Some
not
of them-
excellent. No, we went from, I think some of our on-island roads went from more the poor to up a level.
But I mean,
Yeah.
there is also the side of it of, I mean, you know, like, the curve at 40th is terrible. I mean, it's in horrible condition. I can't drive.
41st?
No, at 40th, like when you're going, sorry, yeah, 41st, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I can hardly drive over in my golf cart without like falling out of the golf cart. And the DOT's, they're never gonna they fix it all the time. They put like a little
A patch
square
on it.
of asphalt that's higher than all the others, and that's their fix. And so
Yeah, they're doing
maybe if we were in control, we would do a better job. Maybe we wouldn't. I mean, but that is something that, you know, and the sidewalks, the condition, you know, because supposedly whoever's maintaining the roads is also maintaining the sidewalks. And, I mean, the sidewalks around that area are, I would not walk on them. They're treacherous.
Yeah, I
And-
think they would allow us, I think, and I'm, you know, saying this without having verified it, but I think that if the city wanted to finance, you know, repaving a section or replacing a section of sidewalk, I think they'd be happy to allow us to pay to do that.
But they're not gonna do it.
But they're,
They're
you know,
not gonna
they're,
do it.
Yeah.
until it bubbles up to a priority on the state level, which is a very
That's the
high.
issue, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think in the meantime, if we wanted to improve, I mean, if this was an effort to improve the surfacing or the infrastructure, I think we could do that without taking them over. But it's obviously, you know, it's expensive and
Right, but then we're putting our money
into their,
you know, it's like renting a house and putting a bunch of money into it, and what's
Yeah.
the point?
And it's like, you know, when they did Waterway.
Oh, Johnny would like to
Johnny.
contribute to this conversation. Come on,
Come on up there, Johnny.
come on up.
I also think they have, I think, said that they would not give us Highway
They won't have-
703.
We can't,
704,
yeah,
yeah.
Palm
Yeah,
is
703.
not.
That
in
one,
the-
but I think all the
would be
rest
okay,
of them, they
yeah.
would be happy to give us.
Just one of the unintended consequences of repairing sidewalks or roads that not yours is you also assume the risk of every sidewalk and road in your jurisdiction.
Yeah, we get sued,
Beyond just paying to maintain it.
Yeah.
The
It's
a
liability.
liability issue is
yeah,
what you're saying.
Correct.
you-
yeah,
You would assume everything on this island.
yeah.
If you did one section of one. That was a court case up in Pelzer and through MASC, they,
Yeah, like all
Was
the
there some of that?
all the Bluestone downtown is city because it's, you know, they wanted.
They wanna have
stuff-
that
They wanted to
Bluestone.
make it pretty, and so the state was like, sure. But every time somebody falls on Bluestone, it's now the city gets sued.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. It's pretty though.
So what would be useful on that one? Just the,
Find out,
I guess the dollar amount of what we would get.
Yeah,
That would be
how many
the,
miles of road and what, probably outside 703, what would be the potential transfer if we did it? And then,
and then it's some sort of conversation with the state of,
on council, do we really want to do this?
yeah.
well, or go, I mean,
Or to find,
Or
maybe
to
to find
find
out from the
out,
state, will
is
they
this
even do it? Yeah,
right.
that
Is
makes
this an
sense.
option, you know, if this is an option, what is it gonna cost to us and or is there a, you know, cost
That's logical,
advantage
yeah.
to us and,
Yeah.
If we can't chase it, then it's not worth chasing.
Yeah.
right. Okay. I think that was the last of the DOTs. do we want to just keep going down the list? So
Sure.
the next is rec center. Access to the recreation center property and facilities to determine options for expansion or reconfiguration of support, demand, and growth in program participation, adequate indoor and outdoor storage, diverse programs that can include education, public meetings, arts, and library.
Is this kind of the community center concept?
That's
Yeah,
how
I
I would
think,
understand that.
yeah,
Yeah.
to make the rec center more of a community center. I kind of think that we do that already pretty well. I mean, I know they offer lots of classes that are not just recreation. It's my understanding that if you have an idea for a class and you want to start it, you can. Is that correct, Carrie? Yes, I'm getting a nod. I mean, within reason, obviously.
Yes, within reason. We, we try to listen to feedback, and I think we attempt to do what was just read every day with programming. I think that's our job, is to kind of figure out with the community what's working and what's not working, and how we move towards what is working. We do have the Linden Learn Library. There's another one on there that you haven't gotten to yet, but we've already increased some furnishings inside. Upgraded some USB stations for workstations for the people who come in and work during classes while their kids are taking classes. So some of these things that we've already,
So
Checked off the
So we can
list.
check one that's done?
you
All
can
right.
check
Done.
one that's done.
Done.
I mean, and that's, I guess, I feel like people always say this, that, there's not enough access, there's not enough options, but like, how many of those people have actually, arrived at the rec center and asked, hey, can I do this? I mean, 'cause I know the art classes, the cooking classes, the, stretch, I mean, there's,
Yeah, we have tried to enhance more from the speaker series, and just to get people in who aren't there every day. We're always going to have the people who come in to vote, and they're like, oh, I forgot y'all were here. Come here to vote, and they just come on November 4th. And that's fine. One day we might get them in. We may just get them in to vote, and that's, and that's fine as well.
So
but
is
I
this-
guess I'm asking, is there some sort of, is there anything else we could be doing, I mean, to get the word out, get the vote out? That, if there's something that you feel like we're missing, like,
I would say just start a conversation with us.
Yeah.
And see where we are.
You're open how many days a week? What are the hours? I mean,
We're open 6 days a week, Monday through Thursday till about 8 p.m. Friday to
Stop
4,
in.
Saturday, yeah. So
there's a
yeah,
lot of
just-
nice people there. There's always somebody at the desk.
Yes.
It's open to the public. I mean,
What about the, and I just don't know what this is, the assess options for expansion, adequate indoor and outdoor storage? Is that, do you know what that's? I don't know what we would be storing.
Storing outdoor.
Or indoor and
And-
outdoor.
Yeah, I'm not
Is it-
really sure either on that one. The only thing that I can think of is we have a lot of exercise classes outside, but that really wouldn't be open for public use. That would be more just to make our lives easier for what's coming in and out.
do you see any need for additional storage at the rec center?
It depends on where you're talking about. What you're talking about outdoor, it would be something I would have to reevaluate. We would need to reevaluate and have a just departmental discussion about, obviously indoor. I don't know if anybody ever has enough indoor storage, right,
Yeah,
for everything
that's-
that we
that
do.
is- that is
But,
true.
again, but I think
That's not on the top of your list
I
of
think that's more
needs.
of a departmental conversation to assess our needs.
I
And
mean,
I think the kind of first part of that is assess the property for options to expand or reconfigure to support demand and growth and participation.
Well, I think
Are
Craig
you
has-
kind of feeling
I'm sorry.
like you're outgrowing the space? Is that what that's getting at? That everything is so, I mean, you all have kind of so much going
That
on.
and to
you're-
make sure we're utilizing the fields and property as best we can.
So is this one, Carrie, you feel like you're kind of on top, isn't this sort of your BAU routine you're keeping an eye on things to manage the most efficient rec center as possible and open
I
up to as
would-
many programs. I mean, it seems like that's what you're
Yeah.
doing already.
Correct.
So is this-
I would like to think
I
that's
think
what
you
we're
are. Yeah, I mean,
doing.
that's the impression I get.
Can we
and-
say that we're gonna pass these off to Carrie, and you will come back to us if and when you see a need for any of those?
That sounds great.
Or is this a kind of an NAR, no action required on these?
Yeah, well, I think it's just
I think
already.
it's just always a conversation
Right.
that happens, and it could change year to year. Obviously, we don't want to jump on a trend too quick and take something away that we're going to use the next year, but
So maybe
in the
instead of
overall
NA,
plan of things, that I think that we always want to figure out what sport is working the best or what programs are working the best, and if they're not,
so instead of no action required, this is more BAU, business as usual.
yeah.
Yeah, that, it got classified as an exploratory, you know, to just, I think the
Kind of
same kind
that,
of thing.
Just
yeah.
keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, keeping an eye
Yeah.
on it.
The next one, though, I think it kind of is, well, I know one in particular thing that just jumped out at me at the city property to increase public access to the water. You know, I was just out at the public dock yesterday, and there's been discussion about having paddle, or kayaks and like a kayak vending machine is supposedly like a thing.
So are you two down from?
Carvana for kayaks?
Yeah, pretty much.
You're two down. We had.
Yeah, I
so,
think
okay,
that-
Recreation interior spaces, we're putting that in
I
the same
put, yeah,
category.
that was all.
Carrie's already got
those
that,
were all
Carrie-
she's
kinda
already got
together.
that covered.
Gotcha.
And then, yeah, so the next one.
Next
the,
one is, yeah,
access to the water and then welcome space, and then with it, that also includes part of the rec facility that we talked about getting more furnitures and stuff like that. A ropes course is kind of more of a, that would be, I mean, we just did the playground, so. As awesome as that would be.
So are these really two separate ones?
Yeah.
One's marina, one's rec center.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if there's any other options, but I would like to look into the option of getting some, I've been shown a picture of this kayak vending machine. And I think there's room for it out there at the public dock. It's maybe something to look into, just to know how much it costs and, you know. I mean, you're gonna be renting them, so I would assume that you could kind of be paying, at least hopefully paying back some of the, I know the initial buy-in is probably gonna be somewhat expensive, but then how much of it, you know, could we get back through renting them?
I don't know much about those machines, but I do know they exist. And it's
Yeah.
like a locker for a kayak or a paddleboard, and you rent it, you unlock it, and you,
Yeah, I mean, it seems
Think
like a
about it.
great
Yeah.
idea. 'cause
I think you got
kayaks are-
one that's like your storage of your kayak, that's
Right.
one thing, and then there's another that's a third party that they own all of it, you pay, you take it out, you put it back, and then you get a deposit back, and you've
Yep.
paid some rental amount to.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be really interested to see what that would
Yeah.
entail. Because kayaks are just cumbersome. I mean, you know, I feel like people would use it a lot more if they were just sitting there.
If you want 4 of them, it's $8,000.
4 kayaks?
Four-
4-place kayak vending machines, 8,000. 8-place vending kayak machines, 11,000. 12-place is 14,000.
Without the kayaks, I'm guessing. That's just the machine.
That's just the machine. Kayaks aren't that
Remote
expensive. I don't think.
operation, solar power, that could add 2,000.
I love Google.
It could go on and on. Kind of interesting, though.
It
I didn't
is.
see one
Yeah, I
before
did.
like that.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen- I have seen photos of it. It is
Is there any other options for things like that? I mean, because we do, you know, the public dock has that nice kayak launching, you know, so
Yeah.
it would be nice to get people using it.
The only other, you know, city property that I'm aware of that touches the water that's not kind of heavily utilized, and I don't know that there's anything we can do about it, is the
Oh,
boat
yeah, that
ramp
boat ramp.
adjacent to the office building at Breach Inlet. That's a city facility.
How
It's
much
very
land is around that ramp, or is it just the ramp
just the ramp.
itself?
It's like
Really?
a 12-foot wide strip. We did, we did dredge out at the bottom of it maybe a year or so, a year and a half ago. They were dredging the marina and we had them kind of tacked on and had them lower it to make it a little bit more usable, but it's a very, and I think we had ATM just at a very high level kind of tell us what it would take to really reconfigure the ramp to be, more usable. And it was, obviously it was a lot of money, but that does seem like an asset that doesn't get used much, but it's very hard to store your trailer. So I mean, for boat, it's kind of built for launching, a center console boat, but you then have a trailer and there's no
Nowhere
real
to put it.
accessible parking around it. So maybe kind of paddle less of a boat facility
Yeah.
and more of like a paddling facility would be something to consider at that property. We also have a handful of dead-end right-of-ways, like the 13th Avenue
Right.
right-of-way, kind of dead ends to the marsh. Those are this one happens to be the city's. But there's a handful of them that are DOTs that dead end, 25th goes to the DOT right-of-way, but it goes and touches the marsh. That's been kind of an idea batted around, of the idea of could you have a little facility there with a crabbing dock or something at the end of some of these street right-of-ways to improve access to the water. That one, it's interesting. I mean, that one also has, Carrie, I'm guessing, so update indoor and outdoor facilities to create a self and welcoming space for teens. Consider comfy furniture in the rec center lobby.
Couch for kids.
Done. Done and done.
Done and done.
I mean, for whoever wants to use it, not necessarily
Not just
a teen
teens.
dedicated
It's not-
space.
It's not,
But we
Next will
did
be the Big
add,
Street TV.
like I said, we added some more chair, couches, footrest, some
Very
USB
teen-centric.
stations. So anybody who
teens.
wants to hang out or come sit and visit, hopefully we created a more comfortable area.
So kind of the second, so the first, those two, and then I would say the second half, we'll put those as.
yeah.
So the only one lacking would be the kayak rental.
So, and then we're also in the process of updating some outdoor seating as well. Some of our rocking chairs are on the front porch by the playground. Those will be changing over in the next few weeks, and we've gotten at least one more picnic table that is for the outside, which will be more comfortable than the regular picnic table. But, so we're just trying to create other little pocket areas, and that was kind of already on our radar to do, just as we've seen an increase of participation and people showing up.
Cool. So people are using it. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes.
In the interest of time, because now I really am gonna have to leave. Are there more, is that all the rec-centered ones?
Do we want to?
No, I think you've got a lot of drainage. There
I was
are a
gonna
lot
say-
of drainage ones that are kind of tied together. Maybe we save those for the next
That's what I
meeting.
was thinking, if we could just, if
There's a lot
that, if
of-
that wraps up rec-related, I'm kind of thinking we.
So that kind of hits rec and DOT.
Yep,
So we've got some kind of work for the DOT parts.
and that
Work
pretty
for the-
much, I
And then
think
we'll have a
almost-
lot of drainage stuff and
I
we're
think, is everything else either flood or drainage related? It looks,
close.
Electric company.
Little electric work.
well,
yeah.
we've got the electric coming,
Yeah,
Should we pick this up next meeting? or-
so,
yeah, I think that would be.
Could, just a suggestion, can we number these so that we can?
There is a column.
Oh,
so-
there is, okay.
yeah.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, we've hidden a lot of, I mean, this
Okay.
matrix goes, so there is
It's like
we
10 feet
wanted you,
wide.
yeah.
You sorted and printed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we wanted you to be able to always take the number and go back to the corresponding plan and find it, kind of in the context of the rest of the plan. So there is a column there.
Okay, and then, maybe we can just yellow out the ones that we've already talked
Yep.
about for next meeting.
Yep,
Yeah, let's do like a.
Color
like
code kind
The ones
of.
that Carrie said we'll put them green,
Green,
Yep.
green.
because they're
Yep.
just good. Done.
Cool.
And then,
Some
yeah,
good
and next week we'll have, or next month, assuming we have the, electronic charging station discussion.
Yep.
And then we can pick up that whatever that, the other power-related issue
Yeah.
is. And then we'll dive into drainage and stormwater drainage and that. Sound good?
Yeah,
It's good.
Awesome.
Everybody here for July 8th?
think so.
I think
Getting
so,
close to-
yes. I know, I was just checking to make sure I'm not driving someone somewhere that day, but it looks like I'm here. Is that good for you?
Yeah,
All right, so.
motion to adjourn.
Motion seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Off the record at 10:16.